So the decision to come to the United States was made pretty much because you had family here. Did you intend to come at any?
Oh yes,
Yeah, you wanted to come.
of course.
Right.
United States always had a good reputation.
Right. So you knew
worldwide.
Right. So you.
But I also knew because I had a lot of family here. Of
Right.
course, I did not know the family, but I was looking forward to meeting them.
Right.
And I'm sure they were looking forward to seeing us.
Right. Which month of 1948 was this when you came?
I came in 1949, April 11th.
Right. So the state of Israel had already been established.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And Jewishly and religiously, you had reverted back to what you were before the war, or you were still getting there?
I was back, but I was still not religious.
You were not religious?
No. Still haven't gotten back that feeling that that I wanted to be because of what I've seen and what I've seen happening. And this is, well, a lot of people said that if anything like that could happen, how could there be anything? But time heals everything, though.
Right. So you came to the United States by boat?
By boat, yeah.
Right.
Gripsholm, Swedish boat.
Swedish boat. With your sister?
No,
Oh, no, your sister came.
She came a few weeks before me.
Right. So you went by yourself?
I was all by myself.
Right. And the two childhood friends who you were with, where were they?
We sort of lost contact after the war, but subsequently I found them in the United States.
Right.
They're also in the United States.
Right. And when you came into New York?
Came into New York.
Into Ellis Island?
No?
No.
Right to the pier. I came to
you came right in.
Pier 5, yeah.
Right.
Well, I did not come as a DP.
Uh-huh.
See, a DP would come in probably to Ellis Island.
Right.
I came in on a regular quota, and I even came in on a beautiful boat because I was under 21. Under 21, you had to travel. You couldn't even travel tourist class at that time, especially I traveled by myself, so I had to come in on a second class accommodations. It was beautiful accommodations. So I came in very nice accommodations. I was able to pay for them though myself because I had Czechoslovakian money while I was there. I always managed to make some money, and although my uncle and aunt had paid for everything, I called them and told them to withdraw their passageway so I can pay for it myself there, and they did, and I was able to do that.
What do you recall about the first sights of New York, when you first saw New York coming in?
I saw the Statue of Liberty. Well, it's indescribable. I mean, it was a tremendous feeling I felt. First of all, I'm coming into a country which I have known a lot about because even my mother used to talk about it when we were children, because she was here as a young girl. She was here, as I mentioned, at the age of 18, and she went back to Europe.
How do you deal with the juxtaposition between what you went through in the camps, the terror, the actual just surviving from one day to the next, and coming to the United States? It must have been very, very hard to come to terms with.
Well, you know, I don't know if most people are like that, but I happen to be a person that can adjust to different climates. And my whole outlook at that point was, a theory was, to go forward instead of living in the past.
Oh.
And I saw things that were going on. I saw people living. And I felt it was time for me to get a share of that.
Right. So where did you go when you came here?
So when I came in, my uncle and my sisters, uncle had a car. He came to the boat to meet me. And as soon as I got off, he took me over to his home. He lived at that time in Richmond Hill.
Which is where?
In Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the whole family came over to see the newcomer. And,
Your sister was here as well.
Yes.
So you saw her straight away.
right. Excuse me, and there was festivities that evening. And, of course, the next morning I wanted to see New York. So I picked myself up and left, and they thought I got lost. I went into New York and traveled the subways and seen the Times Square, which I read about. And I spent most of the day just looking around New York. And I came back in the afternoon. I believe they started looking for me already.
What did you do? What did you, for the first few weeks?
The first few weeks, actually what I did is bought the New York Times and try to read each little article 10 times until I understood it, because I did speak, from school, but you learn a few words is really nothing. But I'd take a little article and read it 10 times until I've understood what it said.
Right.
And I did that all along until I learned how to speak.
When did you meet your wife?
I met my wife in 1952.
Were you already working at that point?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, after I stayed a few days, my uncle was very nice. He had 2 sons. It was my mother's sister's husband. He's a very nice person. He's still alive, by the way. He gave me a choice. He says, Aaron, you're 20 years old. I give you a choice. You can go to school. I'll imagine I have three sons if you want to go to school. Because I always wanted to be a doctor, by the way. My ambitions were always, and my older brother used to groom me sort of for that also, to be something. So he gave me that opportunity if I wanted to go back to school or whatever I wanted to do. He said I could stay in his house. So I thought of it for a while. It was tempting. But I was 20 years old, and I felt that I'd be a big burden for a long time, because I'd probably have to start back possibly with high school or college, and it would be tough until I make it to medical school. So I didn't want to be a burden on him, and I went out and I looked for a job. I went to the Hayas first, because the Hayas was the one that was finding jobs for people.
The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society.
Right. So they got me an appointment with a new company that was starting in the curtain business. Name of Harry Gittleman and Henry Linder, 2 Jewish guys. And of course my English wasn't that good, but I was able to manage. One of them spoke Yiddish, one didn't, and we sort of got together and they hired me on the spot. $40 a week.
Wow. Which in those days was?
I think 38 was minimum or something, but I got 40.
Right.
And they taught me how to cut curtains. They asked me if I knew anything about it. I said I did a little, whatever it is, And they taught me how to cut curtains. And I worked for them from 1949 into 50. And in 1950, I sort of became already the foreman in the place, because they hired some people, and and they were salesmen through 1950. In 1951, I decided I wanted to become a salesman. So they were trying to talk me out of it. I should not go, but anyway, I was determined. So I got myself a line of plastic curtains and their line, and they gave me a territory of Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, and part of Texas. And I bought a car, a used car, and started driving out there. Of course, on the turnpike, the pistons broke on the first time, so I had to sleep over there and had that fixed. But anyway, I made it. I was supposed to meet somebody in Missouri, and I met him there 2 days later in Missouri, and he took me around for 2 weeks to show me the people that I would call on, and then pick up new accounts.
So you were up and running.
And I was up and running, and I did that for a year.
Right.
I can't, used to go away, spend, of course, 3-4 months at a time because you can't run back and forth from that area.
Right.
And I saved up $5,000 doing that, and that was a lot of money those days. But then I had an accident in Hannibal, Missouri. I broke my arm. I rolled over in a ditch with a car, and I was in a cast. Of course, I bought another car, and I traveled again. But after a year, I sort of got tired of it. It was getting monotonous to do that type of work. And I had $5,000. Came back, I asked for my job again. I got it back, but it wasn't the same anymore. They didn't feel towards me the same way, and I didn't feel towards them. And we had an argument. And I walked out, and I was still single, and that was 1952. And 52 was pretty bad. It wasn't easy to get jobs. So I put an ad in the paper that for a curtain business, I know selling, and I know the inside. I had an answer from a fella who had machines in a storage, and he was selling and manufacturing, but if I fixed up a place we had to manufacture, he'd let me use his machines, and he'd give me enough work. To me, it sounded very good. What have I got to lose?
Mm.
I did that. I rented a place on Bleecker Street downtown, Bleecker and Broadway, $300 a month. And I took out his machinery from storage, set it up. By the time I did everything, I just had a few $100s left. And I figured I'd start working, hired some people. A month or so later, didn't have any work, and I was stuck with a factory. Anyway, I started going around and worked really hard to try to get some work, and did most of the work myself. Second month, fourth month, I didn't have enough money to pay for the rent, but it was rough. The landlord worked with me. And slowly but surely, I managed to get the thing going. 3 or 4 months later, I got a call from a bankruptcy judge that this machines are going to be auctioned off because the man went into bankruptcy, and the machines belong to him. I have a lease. I have no machines. So I'm all off at that time, 22 years old, 23. So I see the judge, the bankruptcy judge. I go over to see him. I said to him, look, I don't know what's going on here, but look what you're doing to me. I did all that. It took me all this time to get here. How can you do that? He looked at me. He says, that's the law. I said, well, isn't there anything we can do? How can I buy this stuff and pay it out over a period of time? Make arrangements. Mm. And then I started doing fairly well. And then 2 people came over to me, wanted to become my partners to go into manufacturing, a salesman and a millman. So we got together with them. I'm going to make it short. And they stayed with me for a year, and we lost a lot of money. It just didn't work. The salesman was selling too cheap. The millman was charging too much money for the merchandise, and I was stuck in the middle with the labor. So at any rate, they decided to go out, and I told them that if they close it up, for me to get nothing because I have nothing, but if they leave me the machinery, I will pay them off whatever is due within a certain period of time, and they left it with me. And I remained in that business for 2 years. That was, by the way, I got married in between also. But anyway, the end of 52, I remained with that business, and I started working my way up. 1953, I got married, and until 1957, a partner joined me, and we've been in business with him 25 years. He retired in, in 81 he retired.
Right. And you're still in the same business today?
I am still in the same business, but a very small part of it. I gave it up also about 2 years ago.
But still in the curtain.
Still in the curtain
Still in the
business.
curtain business. And just go back very quickly to how you met
Right.
your wife.
Okay. I met my wife at a dance in Manhattan Center. As a matter of fact, I was on a date with another girl, and then I met some people, and they introduced me to my wife, and made a date with her for the next week, and that was it. We've been going out ever since.
Was it love at first sight? Almost.
Probably, but anyway, it was nice. We met, and she invited me to her house. Her mother was a good cook, and I became a steady customer.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, and then, of course, we got married in 1953, December 27, 1953. And we have had a wonderful life together. We have 4 children, 4 grandchildren, and we're looking forward to enjoy them.
When you look back on those years.
When I look back at those years,
When you
it is almost unbelievable. Even I myself, who went through it, finds it difficult sometimes to believe that atrocities like that could ever happen.
When you hear of incidents today and acts of anti-Semitism and bigotry, Has the
you
world
say to
had-
yourself, hopefully not, but usually they say history repeats itself unless you do something about it. So, fortunately, we're doing something about it. We have a state of Israel. Hopefully it'll never happen again. And
when your grandchildren are old enough to understand about the Holocaust and will know and will learn that you were a part of it, what will you tell them? How will you explain it to them?
It's very difficult for me to explain it to them, and probably more difficult for them to understand. Hopefully, by the time they get old enough to understand that the world will be more at peace than it was, indeed, even than it is today, and that they will understand that these things happen. History will be part of history. And I do hope that nobody, whether my grandchildren or the future world, will never experience anything of that sort.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. And
My pleasure.
very interesting. Okay.
This picture is of my brother Moses. He's the oldest brother. And it was taken approximately in 1940. He was just about 20 years old at the time. It was taken at a hometown in Rakovitz.
And he was taken away.
He was taken away in 1942 into a labor camp, which subsequently we found out that he was shot within a year for not being able to continue working, I suppose.
Do you know the name of that labor camp?
I don't, unfortunately. It was, actually it was not really a camp. It was in the front lines, digging ditches for the soldiers they said at the Romanian border.
Okay.
The picture that you're seeing now is a picture of my grandparents, my mother's parents. Their name was Yitzchak and Rachel. The last name was Angerman. I don't know exactly when this was taken, but it had to be taken sometimes in the, probably in the 30s, or maybe, I would say probably the 30s, the middle 30s. They also lived in Rakovitz in the same town where I was born.
And when did they pass away?
My grandfather passed away in 1942. And my grandmother was taken to Auschwitz, unfortunately.
And your grandfather passed away of natural causes?
Natural causes, yeah. He was 73 or 74 years old at the time when he passed away.
Okay.
Picture that you're seeing right now is on the left, sitting down, is my mother. She was in the United States probably in 1818. This picture must have been taken.
1918.
I'm sorry, 1818. No, 1917, 1918. I apologize. 1917 or 1918. She was in the United States. She's sitting next to her older sister, who was in the United States at the time and has remained in the United States. My mother, unfortunately, went back a short while after that. From what I remember, I was told that she had a problem with the environment and she had to go back to Europe, unfortunately, to meet the Holocaust. And on the right is my aunt. Her name was Rashka, they called her. I don't know what her English name was. But she remained here, and she died just recently. She has 2 sons that are still alive, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, which we get together with quite often.
Okay.
This, of course, is yours truly, myself and my wife. This was taken in 1953. I was lucky enough to find my lovely wife, beautiful wife, and we have spent almost 42 years together, and we're enjoying every day, and hopefully we'll enjoy a lot more. We have 4 lovely children and 4 grandchildren, which I don't know how many of them we'll show you, but those happy times.
All right. And which school did you get married in?
We got married in Brooklyn, in Franklin Manor. It was a wedding hall.
Okay.
December 27, 1953.
Great.
The picture you're watching now is of my lovely daughter, Suzanne. She's the eldest in my second generation. Her husband, Shlomo, and they got married just about 2 years ago. They live in Manhattan, and they make a beautiful couple, and we only hope that their future is as bright as they are. This picture you're seeing now is my daughter, Michelle. I should say our daughter. And she's a wonderful person. She's not married, but she's always around. We always need her. She's always there when anybody needs her. And she's just a great person to have around.
Okay. Sorry.
This picture you're seeing now is of our daughter, Steve, and his wife, Sarah.
My son, Steve.
They say that?
You
Okay.
said daughter.
Sorry. my son, our son, Steve, and our daughter-in-law, Sarah. And as you can see, they're just a beautiful couple. And they have 2 of the most gorgeous children, Matthew and Darren. And we just love to have them. They just don't visit often enough.
Okay.
This picture you see now is of our baby Alan. He doesn't like it when I call him baby, but anyway, he's the youngest. And his lovely wife, Rachel. And they live in California, in Los Angeles, and they have 2 of the most gorgeous girls, Erica and Samantha. They visited just last week, and we look forward to see them more often. They're a delight, and we love to have them.
Okay. Okay.
Now this is the creme de la creme. Of course, I had spoken of them before. To the right on top is our granddaughter, Erica. She's 4 years old, and she lives in California. And to her left is his sister, Samantha. She's 2 years old and also lives in California. Because on the bottom, to the right, is Matthew, and he is difficult to describe, just about everything. And Darren, to his left, his brother, is following in his footsteps. Anyway, we're very proud of him, we love him, and we hope we have a lot more. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you on behalf of the Visual History Foundation for your time and your honesty and recounting something that's obviously very difficult, but we appreciate it.
I'm glad I was able to be of service, and I only hope that the future generations will never experience anything like that.